Good afternoon, everyone. I think we can start this info session on the call for proposal from EFSA to support us in the risk assessment on food enzyme, food additives and flavorings, and feed additives. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Valerio Curtui. I'm the head of the food ingredients and packaging at EFSA. And I'm here in this meeting from EFSA with some other colleagues from science, from procurement as well. I will not start introducing everyone because it's going to take too long, but I will invite each colleague to introduce him or herself at the time when they will make the intervention. The same, we will not go to a tour de table because it's going to be too long. First, please note that this event is organized on a platform that would allow you to interact with us in writing. So all your questions, you should put them in the Q&A chat that you have you can access on the screen. And we will collect all those questions and we'll address them in the Q&A session. And of course, if something will not be sufficiently clarified, you can write a follow-up question. And also from our side, if we will not be able to answer clearly in this session, we will follow up in writing with you, trying to clarify to our best. Also, please note that the meeting is going to be recorded. Whoever does not agree with the recording has the possibility to leave the meeting, but it's for the reason of transparency and also to help us in capturing all the comments made during the meeting. We prefer to have the meeting recorded. I would like to spend just a few words on introducing the call. Why do we have this call and why do we have this meeting? I'm sure you have looked into the call and you have noticed that we ask this and we put the call for getting some support on the three areas that I mentioned: enzymes, food additives and flavorings, and the feed additives, because we have quite some work in these areas. But also, in addition, it's very much to our core to involve more the member states and the competent authorities or competent bodies in the member states in getting involved into the risk assessment that is provided by EFSA to the European Commission and the European Parliament and to the member states as well. And the very good news was also coming with the transparency regulation that was implemented last year that allows EFSA, as of July this year, to give core tasks, meaning even drafting of parts of the scientific opinions or entire opinions to be drafted by competent authorities that are, or competent bodies that are included on the Article 36 list. That has not been possible before, but again, with the transparency regulation, that possibility became a reality, and we are looking forward to involve competent bodies into this process and get more institutions into the risk assessment process of the European Union. So we launched the call on the 26th of July and it's open until the 3rd of November. And we thought that it would be a very good idea in this period to have an info session with potential candidates or applicants to this call to clarify further the call and to respond to your questions, because we understand that not everything might be very clearly understood from the call or understood how it works, these calls and applications to EFSA. And that's why we are here today in this meeting. We have booked 2 hours for this meeting, and we will have first a presentation to clarify the call, to introduce the call, and then we will have some more aspects clarified from our colleagues from finance. And after those 2 introductory presentations, we will have ample time for questions and answers. Again, I invite you to drop your questions in the chat, in the Q&A chat, along the presentations whenever you have a question to raise. And in the Q&A session, then our colleagues will respond to your questions. And as I said, I repeat, Also follow-up questions, if you have, don't hesitate to write them down. If there is going to be something that we will not be able to answer, of course, as I was mentioned before, we will come later on in writing to you. So having said that, I would move to the next point, and I would invite my colleague Magdalena Andriskiewicz to introduce the call to you. The main points, of course, will not be a very detailed presentation because you have in the call, but the highlights, the most important points of this call. So Magda, to you, if everything works in passing. Okay, there you are.
Thank you very much, Valerio. I'm sorry we have a bit of technical issues here, but I hope that now everything will be fine. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Magdalena Andriskiewicz, and I am Scientific Officer in the Food Ingredients and Packaging Unit. And with the other colleagues that are present here today in the meeting, I was contributing to the preparation of this call. First of all, I would like to repeat what already Valerio said, and thank you very much for your interest to the call and also for your participation to this meeting. And as Valerio already mentioned, the aim of this meeting is to present to you the call for proposals that was published in July this year, and also to clarify any issues that might arise questions. With this, I will go to the next slide, and also what was tackled a bit already by Valerio. I would like to highlight that with this call for proposals, we would like to enhance the collaboration between EFSA and the member states. And one of the EFSA objectives is to build a partnership with the organization that may contribute to the EFSA tasks. And for this purpose, we have the legal tools. One of such legal tools is transparency regulation that sets up the objective for EFSA to reach increased risk analysis capabilities in the partnership with national organization, and this is done through, this is dedicated to the specific task, to the draft of scientific opinions that are further peer-reviewed by the scientific EFSA panels. So already in this specific provision of the transparency regulation, you see that the scope of this call is the preparation or the preparatory work for the drafting of scientific opinions. Also, this task together with other tasks are specifically mentioned in the regulation 2230 from 2004, and also there are mentioned the organizations that are eligible to cooperate with EFSA for such type of tasks. So these are organizations that are put on Article 36 list. And these organizations are eligible to apply for the current call. I would also like to mention, as we would like to build a long-term collaboration with Article 36 organization, the best possible way to achieve this will be through the framework partnership agreement that will last 4 years. That's why this type of grant was selected. And in this type of grant, specific agreements for providing concrete deliverables are signed with the successful partners. I will be not going here now in the details related to the to the ground, to the financial issues, because this will be the subject of the presentation of Marco that will be given later on. So having said that, the task that was mentioned on the previous slide, so the drafting of the scientific opinion, is also mentioned in this workflow for the scientific assessment of application. This slide shows two things. The workflow for the production of scientific opinion, so from the receipt of the mandate from the European Commission until the publication of the opinion. And also it shows the second thing, it shows the role of the future partners in this workflow. So in this slide, in the first step, you see that EFSA receives the dossier either from the member state or from the European Commission. Once the dossier is incoming to EFSA, it is validated. The validation is basically a step that checks the completeness. So if all the data that are required under the specific regulatory framework are provided in this application. Then also EFSA launches the public consultation on the application to receive information that might not be included in the dossier, but may be available in the literature. In the literature. So the fourth step is the step where EFSA foresees to issue the specific agreement to the partners. And in this specific agreement will be mentioned the tasks that these partners will be entrusted. Will be mentioned the concrete deliverables that need to be provided and also the timelines. Once this specific agreement is issued, the partner, the framework partner, will sign the specific agreement with EFSA. Once the specific agreement is signed, EFSA will provide dossier or the specific section of the dossiers or further supporting evidence to the partner to have the material to prepare the first draft opinion or the sections of the scientific opinions. And here this is indicated on the step 7. So this is the main scope of this grant, preparation of the first draft opinions or the sections of the opinions, and also identification of the data gaps that may be encountered in the dossiers provided by the feed and food applicants. And once the opinion is, let's say, completed, the next step is the finalization. This opinion is going to the discussion and finalization in the working group, and later on it is discussed and adopted in the scientific panels. So what domains, what regulatory domains this grant covers? So this grant covers 3 regulatory domains and they are indicated here. So this refers to food enzymes, food additives and flavorings, and also to feed additives. And this grant refers to all the dossiers with the legal deadlines for providing the safety assessment by EFSA. And also these legal deadlines, they may differ between different regulatory frameworks. So one scientific opinion regarding the food enzymes should have 9 months of legal deadline. The legal deadline for the providing the scientific opinion for food additives and flavorings is differing from 6 to 9 months, and also the feed additives, they have the legal deadline for adopting of scientific opinion of 6 months. One may wonder why there is so little time, let's say, time to draft the scientific opinions, and with this, one more thing that I wanted also to mention, that as these areas of expertise are common across the 3 regulatory domains, to maximize the use of resources, EFSA organizes this call for proposal that relates to this to one framework contract covering these 3 regulatory domains. So that's why the call is so wide, and that's why it covers these 3 regulatory domains. So also you will see in the text of the call that the work to be outsourced is divided in 8 lots. And the lot number is related to the type of expertise needed for the assessment of the dossier in these 3 regulatory domains. There are also different colors indicated on these slides, and orange denotes common area of expertise needed to undertake the safety assessments across these 3 regulatory domains. So going through the lots, you'll see that lot 1 is on the assessment of the data regarding the identification characterization of microorganisms, and this lot is common for to 3 regulatory domains. Lot 2 regards the assessment of the identity and characterization of food enzyme, food additive, food flavorings, and feed additives, and this lot is also common for 3 regulatory domains. Lot 3 regards the assessment of toxicological safety, and here you may see that depending on the data provided of the dossier, the area of work may differ. So not all the let's say kind of sublots may be applicable to all the regulatory domains. And for example, the assessment of ADMR studies is applicable only to the food additives and flavorings, as well as feed additives. The assessment of the genotoxicity and subchronic toxicity and chronic toxicity studies is applicable to 3 domains. QSAR analysis only applicable to food flavorings, food additives, and feed additives. And the toxicological safety relevant for the user safety only applicable to the domain of feed additives. Lot 4 covers the assessment of allergenicity, and it is only specific for the food enzymes, as the data on allergenicity are only required for the dossiers of food enzymes. Lot 5 covers the assessment of dietary exposure, and this lot is also applicable for 3 regulatory domains. Lot 6 is specific for only the feed additives dossier, and this covers the assessment of efficacy and safety for target animal species. Lot 7 is applicable only for the food flavorings and food additives, as well as feed additives. You may also see that as regards the lot 1 to 7, they are more scientific expertise is needed, while in lot 8 that regards the assemblage of the scientific opinion, more coordinated work is needed, and this lot is a bit let's say outstanding from the other lots. And the future partner, the manager of the lot 8, needs to ensure the precision of the deliverable. So we'll need to combine all the deliverables from the lots 1 to 7 to provide one final opinion. And as mentioned before, this work will need quite a lot of communication with the managers of our other lots, and also a lot of coordination work with other managers of other lots. What tasks related to the production of the scientific opinion are foreseen to be entrusted within this call? So what you see here, this is the list of the tasks that is linked to the life cycle of an application that is going to be included in the corresponding specific agreement that will be signed with the future partners. Some of these tasks are let's say we can call them the standard ones, and these are the tasks from A to C, while the other ones, the task from D to G, might be required only upon a need. And you also can see in this slide that the fulfillment of these tasks is dependent on the point of the time that is dictated by the stop clock mechanism, and this is why we can talk about the intermediate and final deliverables. So the tasks that are covered by the intermediate deliverables are the compliance check of the data provided in the dossier. So the future partner will need to check the data which are provided in the dossier against the available guidance documents that are relevant for the specific regulatory framework, and also the existing EFSA checklist. He will need to analyze the data and also identify the data gaps, and prepare the specific section of the first draft opinion. He will also need to identify potential data gaps and indicate them in the front page of the opinion, so that they will be used to send the additional information request to the applicant. So this intermediate deliverable may also become a final deliverable in a situation when there is no data gaps and there is no need for additional information request. However, when there is a need for additional information request, further tasks that are here indicated, the task from D to G, might be needed from the future partners. And This is one task D, so analysis of additional data and updating of the draft opinion. So once after the stop clock is finished and EFSA receive additional information from the applicant, the future partner might be needed to analyze this data and also to update this data in the light of this provided information. If needed, also this partner might be asked to participate as a hearing expert to the EFSA working group meetings. Also, he might be requested to update the draft opinion in the light of the comments received from the public consultation if the public consultation will be run on the specific dossier. And also, he might be asked to identify the confidential information in the draft opinion. So having said that, here on the slides are indicated the timelines for providing the specific deliverables. So the timeline for providing the deliverable, intermediate deliverable covering the tasks A to C for the lot 1 to 7 is indicatively 5 weeks after the partner will get access to the dossier. And this is applicable for the new and or the renewal of applications. While for the reevaluation of food additives, for the completion of task A to C, the partner will receive indicatively 8 weeks after the getting access to the data or supporting evidence to this application. When we talk about the lot 8, so the assemblage of the opinion, it can be only done once all the parts, so all the lots 1 to 7 are completed and all the deliverables are provided for the lots 1 to 7. So the assemblage of the opinion, the partner for this lot 8 will receive additional 3 weeks after the delivery of the lots 1 to 7. Also, it is worth to underline that this short timeline, so either 5 or 8 weeks, is needed to ensure that the timeline, that the time is available for the subsequent step 8 to 9 that I mentioned and I explained already on slide 1. So to finalize the opinion in the working group and to adopt this opinion in the panel meeting, because what I also mentioned at the beginning, there are the legal deadlines for adoption of the opinion, either 6 or 9 months, depending on the regulatory framework. What workload is expected within this 3 years of framework partnership agreement? So please bear in mind that the presented here workload is only estimated, as EFSA cannot anticipate how many mandates we'll receive from the European Commission in the coming years. And also, European Commission cannot anticipate how many submission of application will be provided by the feed or food industry. So, as you see here, in the first year might be around 40 dossiers, and also during this first year, it's important that the future partners will be trained, so will receive a kind of the on-the-job training, so we'll get used to the EFSA tools and EFSA processes. That's why also this number in the first year is a bit lower. In the subsequent years, the number of the dossier will be increasing. So in the second year, around 50 dossiers might be foreseen. In the third, 65, and in the fourth year to arrive to around 70 dossiers for the assessment. Also, it is worth indicate here that as we would like to establish long-term collaboration, the important parameter for us is the quality of this assessment, and the quality can also only be reached, let's say, with the time. So starting with the smaller number of the dossiers at the very beginning. We also think about grouping of the dossiers within the specific agreement. So to put as many dossiers as possible in the same specific agreement. And those dossiers under the one specific agreement may be coming from different regulatory frameworks. And why this is important for us to group these dossiers? This would facilitate the organization of the work of the future partners, and also will reduce administrative burden related to the governance of the grant. So we think that it will be beneficial to group this dossier, and it will be beneficial for both sides, for the future partners as well as for EFSA. And with this slide, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I will give the floor to Marco Cortopassi.
Thank you, Magda, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marco Cortopassi. I work in the EFSA grant and procurement team in the finance unit, and today I will present the grant-related aspect of this partnership opportunity. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the partnership is established on 8 different lots. We've heard from Magdalena already. And proposals can be received for one or for more of these lots. And there is a condition specific for lot 8. We've heard that it is possible to apply only to lot 8 in case the applicant also applies for one of the other lots, because lot A is about assemblage of the lots, in the opinion. So proposals for multiple lots are actually encouraged under this grant. And proposals, once received, are evaluated and are ranked per lot. So there would be framework partnership agreements that will be signed with those applicants or those consortium that will score above the minimum quality threshold. So there will be a multiple FPAs, framework partnership agreements, as a result of this call for proposals. The duration of the framework partnership agreement will be 4 years from the signature of the partnership. This is the period within which, let's say, the tasks can be assigned. However, in the last year and up until the end of the framework partnership agreement, tasks can be assigned and can be completed in year 5, so after the expiry date of the framework partnership agreement. So in reality, total duration of the partnership can actually last longer than 4 years and up to 5 years. In terms of budgetary envelope, we have for this call for proposal 3.1 million, and this is to be considered as the maximum of EFSA total grant that can be awarded throughout the duration of the 4 years plus the extra year, okay, but for all the framework partnership agreements. And the breakdown that we have indicated in the call text, we have an indication of the breakdown per lot. Is an indication, but of course we've heard from Magdalena, the actual assignments per lot will really depend on where the needs arise and where the mandates and when they come in. However, it is a good indication, this breakdown, I think, of where most of the resources will be expected and will be required. The partnership will be remunerated with a mechanism that we call the finance not linked to cost. So this is a new financial mechanism foreseen by the financial regulation for the last few years now, actually, and it is less complex and administrative, easier to manage for the applicants, and I will provide more detail and more explanation shortly. Next slide, please. So once the FPAs, the framework partnership agreements, are signed and in place, they will be implemented by what we call specific agreements. The specific agreements will be issued by EFSA as and when the need arises. But we've already mentioned with Magdalena that the intention is for EFSA to bundle, to package the assignment and issue specific agreement of let's say rather appropriate value, and at the same time also do this regularly, also to consider the workload. The assignment mechanism is rather peculiar for this call. Is described in detail in section 1.33 of the call for proposals, and it shows that the tasks can be entrusted for one lot only, and we have a ranking for each lot. So the task would be assigned in priority to the top proposal in the lot, but it can also be assigned in multiple lots for the same opinion. In this case, it's the combination of the scores obtained in those lots by the same proposal, and that's why we encourage also multiple applications to multiple lots. So this will determine the actual organization or consortium to which the work will be assigned in priority. I say in priority because in the call we have what we call the cascade mechanism that is activated if the best ranked beneficiary does not accept the proposal of a specific agreement, and in this case the second in the ranking would be offered the opportunity. In terms of consortium, we can say that consortium creation is encouraged, as consortium are more likely to cover more lots and are more likely to absorb also the amount of, let's say, work in a way that EFSA needs to partner with the beneficiaries under this grant. And therefore, it is more likely the consortium to cover the needs of the EFSA request for services, let's say. So also the assignment mechanism, as I explained, for multiple lots, somehow reward the proposals that cover more lots for the assignment. In general, in terms of a specific agreement, we plan to offer a 12-month duration for a specific agreement, which should fit with those deadlines that Magdalena explained before, to cover the initial phase, the A to C tasks, and with the possibility for the follow-up actions for the following tasks, D to F. The specific agreement will, however, be considered concluded upon acceptance of the final deliverable and upon of course, corresponding payment. Next slide, please. In terms of the financial mechanism that we have chosen for this call for proposal, we have decided to use a financing not linked to cost, also called result-based. In this grant, we consider it as simplified because there would be no need to demonstrate co-financing. There is no estimated budget, and there is no timesheets required. In a way, all EFSA needs to ascertain is that deliverable is delivered, is acceptable, and then the payment is made, and the grant is, let's say, concluded with this simplified process. The grant amount in the specific agreement, though, is based on what we call a result value or output value, and this is predefined in the call in the section 1.4 per each lot. And the output value is determined upfront by EFSA in the specific agreement, and it's based on the complexity of the tasks for the specific dossiers that are assigned in the specific agreement. The payment is done, as I mentioned, upon acceptance of the final deliverable, and after the final payment, the specific agreement is concluded. There is a possibility for an interim payment of 70% of the grant amount indicated in the specific agreement if the stop the clock after the delivery of the intermediate deliverable after the tasks A to C if this stop the clock is estimated by EFSA to be higher than 6 months. In that case, at that moment, at the intermediate deliverable, EFSA may agree to already pay the 70% of the full grant amount. If the stop the clock is expected to be shorter, then there would be no interim payment, but there will be the payment of the balance at the delivery of the final deliverable. And it is for the beneficiaries of the grant, in case of consortium, to decide how to share the grant amount. And of course, this goes without saying, they provide their resources and their people as well, so they will be free to decide how to share the amount. Next slide, please. So how to apply? This is a slide basically to recap the main administrative points to complete a dossier, an application dossier for this call for proposal. So we have a deadline on the 3rd of November this year, and the modalities for applying are those that have been used by EFSA so far. We still have a hard copy submission by courier or by post. EFSA is working into migrating to e-grants, and we hope then in the very near future, and possibly already by the end of this year, we will be piloting in some of our calls e-grants. So we will be no need anymore to submit a paper version of the proposal. But okay, maybe this would be interesting for some of the people attending today that are recurrently collaborating with EFSA, but for this call we still have the old system, so we need to receive the hard copy, and we need to have the application completed using the application form. It's in Annex 2 to the call for proposal. In addition to the application form, all the evidence and the documents requested in the call, and in the application form there is a useful checklist that is there to really help not to forget anything from the final proposal. In terms of eligibility and exclusion, that's the first criteria that will be assessed by the evaluation committee after the deadline of the call. We will have to receive a legal entity form to establish the composition of the application and the consortium in case of consortium, a financial identification form for the coordinator only in case of consortium, a partnership statement, this we require when we have a consortium again, and a declaration on honor on exclusion criteria. In terms of selection criteria, on page 25, it is explained per lot what it is that we need to assess as a evaluation to somehow certify the level of the minimum capacity, the level of knowledge that's required. And we have one requirement of expertise per lot, but we also have a requirement on the English language. Plus, for the coordinator, we have a declaration on honor on selection criteria. So this is all explained in page 25 of the call. And finally, the award criteria on page 31. This is a so-called, say, technical proposal. And this is where you have 4 criteria per lot again, and one on resources, one on timeliness, one on coordination, and one on continuity, against which the proposal per lot will be scored and ranked by the evaluation committee. At the end of the evaluation, there will be a ranking per lot for the proposal received. Next slide, please. So this is my concluding piece of information. The call text, the annexes, the application form, any written clarification, it's all available on the EFSA website on the grant section, and you have the link on this page. And when it comes to clarifications, it is possible to request further clarification in addition of what we are offering as an opportunity today, even in the coming days. And until the 26th of October, the clarification must be requested in writing to this email address, EFSA procurement. Then EFSA will prepare the answer and they will be published alongside the call documentation in the page that you can see on the web page that you can see on this slide. Thank you for your attention. I stop here and now I give the floor back to Valerio. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Magdalena and Marco, for the presentations. I hope certain points have been clarified with this introduction that you gave. Before moving to the Q&A session, I would renew the invitation to write your questions in the Q&A chat. So this meeting, it's organized on an event platform on Teams and doesn't allow us to put you live and to have a direct intervention. So all your questions have to be put in the chat. So please do so while discussing. Don't hesitate, and we'll try to respond to all of your questions that you may have. And with this, I think we can open the Q&A session, and I will pass the floor to my colleague Mary Drizanan, who's the head of the feed co-unit dealing with the contaminants and the feed additives. So Mary, I did your introduction. So Mary will coordinate. Okay, you are live now. No sound.
Okay, I start again. Thank you, Valerio, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming, and thank you for posing questions and continuing to pose questions, which we will address verbally in this session. Anything that we cannot address or don't have time to address, we will, of course, follow up in writing. So the first question is from Fernando in ANSES. And he's asking, will you know in advance the composition of lots regarding the nature and number of dossiers? So this is after the call is awarded. For a given specific agreement, yes, we will have a rough indication on the specific lots, the composition of the lots, and the number of dossiers or parts of dossiers that will be included in that specific agreement. Of course, important to mention, with all specific agreements, we would envisage discussing the draft agreement with the partner beforehand, so that no agreement comes as a surprise and we have a chance to have a dialogue on what's feasible to include in the specific agreement before it's officially launched. Okay. Then I move to the next question, which is from the Danish focal point. So the question is, if we identify a data gap and this results in EFSA using the stop the clock function, and the applicant will then submit new information or explanation, what then? Will EFSA deal with that, or will a new request for performing the task to evaluate the new information? So the first answer to this question is that all of this will be included in one specific agreement. Okay, all of the possible tasks, including tasks after stop the clock, if it's needed. And if a stop the clock is needed, then we would liaise with the partner to evaluate the data received after they have been requested, the additional data that has been received after being requested from the applicant. If no additional data are needed, then the partner can proceed with finalising the steps of the specific agreement. I hope that's clear. Colleagues, feel free to add additional information if you think so. Then the third question is from Fernando in ANSES. Will the partners be able to choose the lots depending on the nature and number of dossiers? This I understand to be relating to applying to the call before the call is awarded. And the partners will be able to choose lots based on the expertise to which the lots pertain, and not necessarily linked to a specific regulatory domain per se. So, for example, if I take lot 5 relating to dietary exposure, the partner can choose to apply for that lot based on expertise in dietary exposure, and that expertise is applicable to 4 regulatory domains, so it's not specific to one specific regulatory domain. Okay, then I moved to the question from the Danish focal point. Again, the question is, will there be different deadlines for the tasks within a specific agreement? Otherwise, it could be difficult to take on a specific agreement with many tasks. And the answer to this question is yes, there may be, because a specific task may relate to 2 different regulatory domains, okay, which may be linked to different deadlines, okay, but all of this would be outlined in the specific agreement. The other thing to point out, as I mentioned, and it's very important, is that we would envisage always engaging with you as a potential partner before we issue a specific agreement with regard to the content, the volume of work, the time frames, etc. So that we have agreement beforehand that what we would like to request is feasible for you. Okay. Then we have a question from ANSES, Fernando in ANSES. What is a final deliverable? Example, a deliverable conditioned to stop the clock response would not be financed until the applicant completed it. Magda is going to take this question. Over to you, Magda.
So it will depend also on the duration of the stop clock, and in the text of the call it's clearly stated that if the time of the stop clock is longer than 6 months, you may receive 70% of contribution of the payment. So this is a kind of the interim payment.
Okay, thank you, Magda. Then, as a follow-up question from ANSES, we have, can the financing amounts predefined by EFSA based on complexity of dossiers be renegotiated? And I believe the answer to that is no, because they are already established in the call and will be included in the contract. What I would envisage is perhaps the level of complexity could be discussed between EFSA and the partner, but not there would be no room for negotiating the finance amounts, because they're defined up front. Okay, then we have a question from Helen in ANSES. What is the proportion of single level for enzyme folders? Now I'll reach out to the colleagues for clarification on that question. Would you know, Camilla?
Sorry, I can try it as well.
Okay, E will try to answer this question, Helen. I'm not entirely sure exactly the precise meaning of the question, but I'm hoping that E can have a go at answering it.
Okay, so let me just switch on the camera. So I'm E, working in the food enzyme sector. So I believe here the enzyme meant food enzymes. And what is the complexity level for a food enzyme dossier? I would say there is a range. And by average, the enzyme dossier is medium difficult. And however, there is also, it's a bit like a normal distribution. And we have some easy applications. And on the other side, we also have some really complex ones. So I would say for the planning of your capacity, and you can count on maybe 10, 80, and 10 if you go with that distribution, and easy, medium, and complex. And I guess that's the answer you're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, E. And then if needed, please write a clarification question in the chat. I hope we've answered that question for you. Okay, then the next question is anonymous. Is it possible to submit the hard copy of the application with electronic signatures? And for this, I pass to my finance colleague, Marco, to answer.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, that's possible.
Okay,
yes.
Very good. Then I need to move to more questions. Bear with me. Okay. Okay, then next question is from Anonymous. And the question is, the analysis of some parts of the dossier maybe will not be necessary depending on the evaluation of some sections. For example, toxicity is not needed if no exposure. How will it be managed? So I think to answer this question, EFSA will receive the dossier after the dossier validation step, and what is needed to be evaluated, we will include in the specific agreement. So we will not ask you as a partner to make that decision of what's needed or not. Okay. The next question is, there was a mention of training. Could you provide some details on how this is foreseen? Will trainings be provided before dossiers are allocated? So here we are referring to training in a particular regulatory domain, okay? Because we expect that if you apply for a specific lot, that you would have the expertise pertaining to that lot. You may have specific experience dealing with a particular type of dossier, like enzymes or additives, food additives, but maybe not feed additives. And in that situation, we would provide training on the regulatory domain, which is relevant to the specific area of expertise for a lot. We would envisage that this training will be provided before we issue any specific agreements, so after contract signature. So I think that answers your question. Probably physical or virtual to be seen, depending on the epidemiological situation at the time. The next question is from RIVM, Corinne. Specific question on exposure assessment for food additives. FAME is now used for new or extension of uses of food additives. The applicant is requested to complete the FAME template. For re-evaluation, EFSA uses the Comprehensive Food Consumption Database in SAS. This one is not mentioned in the call. So what would be the activities to be done by the partner in Lot 5, which pertains to exposure assessment? So for this, I pass over to my colleague Camilla to answer.
Yes, and good afternoon. As we have presented, the call is not limited to the food additives re-evaluation, but takes into account the new applications that are submitted under the common authorization procedures, both for food additives and food flavorings. In both of these sectors, the use of the FAME is one of the requirements that we ask the applicants to provide when submitting an estimate of exposure. And so yes, for the exposure, for the moment, we are more envisaging support in that area of new applications. We cannot exclude that also in the area of food additives re-evaluation, we could have cases where an exposure scenario, for instance, with the maximum permitted limits can be done using the FAME template.
Thank you, Camilla. The next question from Anonymous. In case of a proposal presented by a consortium, is it possible that 2 or more partners justify competency on the same lot? And I believe the answer to this is yes, but Marco, do you want to verify that?
Yeah, yes, I agree. Yeah? The expertise that's required in the selection criteria per lot is intended as the minimum expertise, a minimum capacity. If there's more of that, more people, more organization, more CVs, that's all the better. So definitely yes.
Thank you, Marco. Next question is about training again. There was a mention of training. Could you provide some details on how this is foreseen? Will trainings be provided before dossiers are allocated? So we have this question already. Just to reiterate, yes, trainings will be provided, in particular relating to the regulatory domain, to which we seek expertise support. It is foreseen after contract award and before we issue specific agreements. So that just to repeat what I mentioned earlier on that. Then we have a question from RIVM. How will this call affect the workload of the current panel and working groups working on these substances? Is a substantial decrease or increase foreseen? Who would like to answer that? I can give you my view, or Eve, would you like to answer? No. So with this outsourcing and partnership agreement, we would hope and envisage that we would have a faster throughput of dossiers and draft opinions coming to the panels and the working groups as well. So the answer, in my view, is a substantial increase is foreseen. Next question. If you apply to just one lot and are highly ranked, whether or not you will be invited to sign a specific agreement will depend on the aspects of relevance for the particular assessments, isn't it? This also means that probably not all assessments related to a lot will necessarily be allocated to the same institution or consortium over a 4-year period. I need to digest that question. Just a moment, unless any colleague can answer it, I need to digest it for a moment. If you apply to just one lot and are highly ranked, whether or not you will be invited to sign a specific agreement will depend on the aspects of relevance. Okay, if you are highly ranked for a particular lot, and if you are ranked highest for a particular lot, you will be awarded that lot. Yeah. Okay. Pardon? You want to answer?
Yes.
You will be ranked first.
I will answer.
Okay. He will elaborate on this answer.
Okay. So actually, the scenario is shown in the table 3. And so, for example, in the first example, it basically says that EFSA will just, let's say the dossier requires only one lot. And that lot, you happen to be ranked on the top. And in that case, no doubt, and the top rank will get a job. And the example 2 and 3 is perhaps more frequently happen because a dossier is multidisciplinary. And by that, and when EFSA is deciding to outsource entirely an opinion out, and that means that it will affect multiple lots. And when that happens, and I would say if a consortium decided, because they are more powerful, and they are able to cover several lots, and example 2 basically shows that, and under that specific agreement, and that groups of dossier would require, for example, only lots 1, 3, and 7, and the consortium that applied all the 3 lots and ranked not necessarily top in every individual lots. However, the sum is the top and will get a job. So I think there is no guarantee. It's really, I think in the shortest answer to your question is yes and yes. So if you study the example, you understand the mechanism. And yeah, it's actually, it's not pre-decided by the ranking system, and rather upon needs of the dossier that will end up in that specific contracts. I hope this explains. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Next question, will there be seminars with selected organisations at the beginning of the process to harmonise the drafting and criteria? So there will not be seminars as such, but after the contract award, we would envisage a kick-off meeting, bringing all the partners together and going through precisely this, explaining what needs to be done and try to harmonise the drafting and criteria as much as possible. So yes, there will be engagement. Next question is from Anses. Would it be feasible to increase the budgets indicated on page 19 of the call for proposals, which seem to be somewhat undersized in relation to the work to be done? And this similar question came up before. So it will not be possible to increase the budgets described in the call, which will be included in the contract. These are fixed. However, we would envisage some flexibility and discussion on the complexity, levels of complexity of the different tasks. And of course, the levels of complexity are linked to the budget as such. Just to clarify how we came up with these figures, these are based on experience of EFSA staff working on dossiers over several years. So we have a good indication of the number of working days which are typically spent on different sections of a dossier, and that's what they're based on. Okay, so no possibility to increase the budget, but flexibility to discuss complexity levels. Okay. Then next question is from RIVM. Will a toxicology literature search also be part of the specific agreements, or will all information to be evaluated, be provided via EFSA? So Camilla, my colleague, will take this question. Thanks, Camilla.
No, I mean, how we have envisaged the partnership agreement is really for EFSA to provide the organization with the data that need to somehow compile and let's say pre-digest. We don't envisage thorough literature searches to be performed.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Denmark. I understood that a consortium can arrange the work within a consortium as we wish, as long as we meet the deadline set by EFSA. And the answer to this question is yes. Okay. Next question. In our scientific groups,
we have expertise in food additives, but not feed additives. Can we submit our interests across several lots for only food additives? And this is not possible because the lots are based on expertise, okay, described in table 4 of the call. But I would like to point out that if your organization has expertise relating to food additives, specific expertise relating to food additives, it is likely that in most cases that expertise will also be applicable to feed additives, okay? And that's where the training comes in, as we talked about in several questions ago. Okay, we would give some training in this case on the feed additives regulatory framework, and you would see how similar, how applicable your expertise is across different regulatory frameworks. Okay. Then next question is from ANSES. Does a delay of 5 weeks apply to the whole lot or to individual dossiers within the lot? Okay. Does the delay of 5 weeks apply to the whole lot or to individual dossiers within the lot? Can anybody help me interpret this question? Pardon? I think the time frame of 5 weeks. I think yes, it's the deadline of 5 weeks applies to the whole lot. No, it applies to individual individual tasks within a lot. Okay, not to the entire lot. Next question. In case of traveling to EFSA premises for meetings, how will the expenses be covered? It's not foreseen. It was not included in the contract. So if I give my answer, and I might call on Marco to come in as well. It was not foreseen in the original contract, physical meetings. Therefore,
yeah, that's correct. The call, the tasks do not require physical presence. If exceptionally this would be requested, of course, is at the discretion of the partner, and the output value, the way it is designed as an all-inclusive, let's say, all costs covering, it's meant to cover all sort of possible other cost areas. So there is no separate provision for remuneration and reimbursement of travel costs. But as I said, I think the call is designed for a remote collaboration.
Indeed. Our whole working life is designed for remote collaboration now. Okay, next question. What should be included in a proposal for this call? Is there a template for a proposal? Is there a word limit? Marco, would you take this one as well, please?
Yeah, I think this came up also in a written question, and we've clarified in writing also on the website. I think clarification number 2, but I'm happy to read it right now loud, the answer. So I think it was the same question about, is there a template? What should be included in the application form? And the application form is to be supported by the documents indicated in the call. There is a checklist in the application form that helps to compile the proposal. The technical proposal is one of the documents that must be annexed, and this must be for each lot that you apply for. So 1 lot, 1 proposal. 3 lots, 3 proposals addressing the criteria, the award criteria identified in the section 2.5, and there is no predefined template for your technical proposal. You're free to decide it.
Thank you, Marco. Okay. Next question from Denmark. Could you please clarify for lot 4, which is about allergenicity assessment? Is it only for enzymes or also for food additives? Lot 4 is only for food enzymes, okay, as described in table 2. Next question is from Ansas. Is step 8 of the process, i.e. finalization of the draft scientific opinion by EFSA working group, compulsory, or is it envisaged that eventually the product delivered by the beneficiary could be presented directly to the panel, and that the beneficiary could thus have more time to deliver his work? So this question is saying, can the final draft opinion be presented directly to the panel? Yes, E? Okay, E will take this one.
Thank you for the question, Ansys. And perhaps at the end of the 4 years, and this goal could be reached. And but in the first year, and I don't believe even in the second year, a draft prepared by the let's say grant holder will be able to deliver opinion that really meet the guidance, the criteria, everything that could be presented to the panel directly. But that's the long-term goal. That's actually is the EFSA partnership initiative really would like to achieve. So in practice, not since day one.
Okay. But we would aspire to that. Okay. The next question is, does this mean that a partner can finalize the evaluation of one dossier, one task, in 5 weeks and continue working with the other dossiers or other tasks within a lot? I think this question is a follow-up to an earlier question relating to the 5 weeks. Do you want to take that, Magda? Yeah. Depends on how the specific contract is written. It really depends on how a specific contract is written, Fernando. It may well be the case in some cases, and in other cases it may not be the case. Yeah. So it's difficult to give a black and white answer to that question. You want to add, E?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think I understand where this question is going, and following the comments written as such, a yes answer would be given unless the specific agreement is made on a single dossier basis. And however, stay assured that will not be the specific agreement will be made like that, because at the end, EFSA will become only secretary of serving the contract handling. So what EFSA will be doing is we will be grouping the let's say dossiers across the different legal framework and then make them into the lots, and therefore in the same lots you will have, first of all, multiple number of dossiers, and they may come from up to 3 regulatory framework, and that will come up with a deadline. So I think that's more the realistic scenario for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, E. Then we move to the next question. For a past EFSA call of a similar type, we submitted legal entity forms and other supporting documentation. These won't change for our organisation. Can these be reused by EFSA if we submit an application and make reference to the previous proposal? I pass that question to Marco.
Yeah, we usually accept documents of 1 year old, let's say. So if it's a very recent call, there are documents that we can they can reuse. In particular, among the sets of documents, let's say those that are unrelated from this specific call content-wise, I see the legal entity form, that's true, and also the declaration on honor and exclusion. Yeah, by all means, these we can retrieve, and in case there is something that's missing in the dossier at this level, we can always go back by email to the applicant and ask them to complement by email. What's important that it's present in the package is really the part on the technical proposal, the one that satisfies the award criteria, 2.5 and the technical proposal. This is not something that we will be able to go back to the applicant and request to complement if something is missing, I'm afraid. But what concerns the eligibility and exclusion and the selection criteria, if we have one CV that it's missing, we are also in a position to go back and request. So that's less critical. So be very careful with the 2.5 award criteria. Your proposal must be there completed in the hard copy. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Then the next question is, what if a partner... Sorry, I skipped one. The next question is, in the call document, it is said that the applicant should provide a team of experts with evidence of CVs. Does this mean that EFSA will decide finally which experts can be gathered by a partner? And I think this, I pass this one probably to you, Marco.
Yeah, yes. This the CVs that are provided in the application, the team of experts, page 26, are evaluated by the committee to prove that there is the capacity within the organization, and the proposal passes this step in the selection criteria. Oh, sorry, this step in the evaluation, the step of the selection criteria. Once the proposal, if the proposal is successful in the end and there is a framework partnership agreement in place, it's only when the specific agreement is issued then the partner is requested to confirm who are the experts. People may have changed the job or for any other reason, so EFSA will request the CVs. It may be the same CVs that were included in the application, which passed the evaluation, and that's great. But it may also be other colleagues still compliant, of course, with the team expertise required in the call. Yeah, I hope that addresses the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. The next question is, what if a partner is busy with one dossier in week 3 and then receives another dossier in week 3? Will the partner get additional time for the overlapping period? So it's important to mention here, if this situation happens, it will be defined upfront in a specific agreement, which will be shared with you in advance. So, and also the precise timings insofar as we know them, okay? So if this happens, the whatever time is agreed upfront and defined in the specific agreement will remain, okay? But it's important to to emphasize the fact that the content of a specific agreement will always be discussed and agreed with you before it is issued. Okay. Also important to mention that a specific task may not relate to a full dossier. Okay, it might only relate to a small section of a dossier, like a section on exposure or toxicology. So that's also important to mention. Okay.
Mary, it's Marco. Yeah, can I complement your answer, please?
Sure.
Just to clarify also that in case a partner, a consortium is very busy with the number of dossiers and somehow reach the capacity, and then there is an offer for yet other dossiers, they're not obliged to take that. We have a cascade in place, so the work can go to the second in cascade if they are not in a position to absorb that kind of work. But this, I think, is also for EFSA to try and manage the flow and the workload as much as possible.
Thank you, Marco. Okay. Next question, will the questions being addressed now be published as clarifications on the website? Yes, we will publish our answers in this session on the website. Next question, is there any restriction in relation to experts involved in EFSA working groups or panels to be involved in a consortium for this grant? Okay. Camilla, would you like to take that?
Yes, because it's a question that's already published in the clarification that you find on our website. And again, I read it out loud. The involvement of an expert of the EFSA panel working group in a grant does not constitute per se a conflict of interest. To note that the respective expert will have to refrain from discussing in the working group or the panel the applications to which he or she participated in the context of the grant, should such applications be put for discussion in the respective working group or panel. This is in line with our rules for conflict of interest that prevent an expert to review his or her own work.
Okay, thank you, Camilla. I don't see any additional questions in the chat. You colleagues? Okay, then I think I can hand back to you, Valerio.
Thank you, Mary. But first, I see the two dismissed questions.
Yeah, no,
I think it's something wrong. Something wrong happened, but I think we have to take those as well.
Okay. And also.
Back to you, Mary. Back to you.
Thank you. And also, I see another one coming in. So let me take the one coming in. The one coming in is that it's published. Okay. Just bear with me. The partners for the consortium must be institutions, or can they be individual experts? So all of the partners applying to this call need to be on the list of Article 36 organizations. Okay. Then there was one dismissed, which we restore. I call it out here because I don't know where it will go if I restore it. Yeah. Okay. Will there be different deadlines for the tasks within a specific agreement? Otherwise, it could be difficult to take on a specific agreement with many tasks. I think we have this question already.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a repetition.
It's a repetition, that's why it's dismissed.
But there is one that is published that has not been also.
Okay, so let me go to the published one.
Okay.
And just to reiterate the answer to that question, yes, there can be different deadlines in a specific agreement if the tasks are linked to different regulatory frameworks. Okay. And then there's one last one published. No, I don't see it. Oh, okay, the very last one, right. The question is the partners for, I read this one already, the partners for the consortium must be institutions or individual experts. So they must be Article 36 organizations. Okay.
The previous one.
The previous one, sorry. Does the conflict of interest analysis done by a member state partner on its team of experts be accepted by EFSA? So this is a question relating to DOIs, declarations of interest, and EFSA will assess all of the declarations of interest during the award phase of this call. Yes.
If I can add, Mary, to this. Yeah. To add to and to be put live. Okay. To add on this, Fernando, of course, we would be happy to have the chance to rely on the DOI assessment done by the other organizations. We know in some areas it's happening. We have checked that with our legal department, and the answer was no. For the grants and procurements, we are obliged, so EFSA is obliged to run the DOI assessment by itself. So we will have to do that, regardless whether you do it for your experts due to your obligations or in ANSYS. We still have to do it. Thank you.
Just to clarify, maybe Valerio, Marco is speaking here. We don't need the declaration of interest in the call, in the application. It will only be requested at the later stage when a specific agreement is offered. Okay.
Okay. Just a moment. I see another one has come in. How is it possible to become a partner in a consortium? Does any institution applying for the grant search for additional partners? Do we have Jorgeus who would like to take this one?
Yes, sure, May. I can. So if I understand correctly, this is a question from an institution that is interested in some of the lots of the school, but do not have alone the expertise to cover everything. So first of all, it is possible to participate for individual lots there, that's one. But if they would like to enhance the coverage of the call or improve the relevance to what the call is asking, the easiest way would be to go to the national focal point there, express their interest to participate in the call, and try to describe what they are seeking as a partner. And they could perhaps offer them assistance. They could circulate in the network their expression of interest, and perhaps this would help them identify who they could team up and submit an application.
Okay, thank you, Jorgeus. I hope that many of you will explore this route to become part of Consortium. Then the next, and I believe the final question is it correct to assume that there's no page or word limit for the technical proposal? And the answer to that, I believe, is yes, but there has been no limit mentioned in the call. Okay. So I wait for a few more seconds and in case any last minute questions come in. I think not, Valerio.
Okay,
Okay.
then we can almost conclude the info session. I hope you found it useful, the answers to your questions and the presentation of the call and the clarification from the procurement side as well. And please be reassured that with this, we intend, as was mentioned also at the beginning, to establish a partnership with different competent bodies in the member states to be with us on a longer journey, not just one on-off task and we close it. But it's important to build this capacity and build a network and collaboration with the other competent authorities or competent bodies in the member states. And then I would pick one point that was very important from the questions, whether it will be possible to submit direct the drafts to the panel. That's what we aim to. So that's indeed what we aim, as was explained also by my colleague. Will take a bit of time, but that's our dream, that at a certain point, those who have applied will prove to have the competence, the excellence in delivering a draft that can go directly to the panel without passing through EFSA's working group. So we have to work on that together to achieve that goal. There will be, as mentioned, training provided to the partners. But there I would like to make a remark. So you can expect training to align on the methodologies and the approaches applied by EFSA so that we go on the same line. However, we will not invest now a lot of effort in training how to do risk assessment, how to do, because there is going to be the need for you to prove that you have the competencies, the expertise in your call. And there will be, of course, the selection and the ranking. However, we will be very keen in having this training, as I said, for alignment on methodologies and approach. But I would be cautious not to expect now that we'll start from scratch, from zero, on how to perform risk assessment or how to handle the applications from zero. Having said that, we look forward to receive your applications. The more the better, either individual applications or in consortia. We've clarified that consortia is also better for us, for you, in completing the competences and expertise from different bodies and handling the dossier in a smoother way. But it's up to you to judge what you can do, and if we can help you somehow to put you in contact with other institutions in building consortia, we'll be happy to do so. So don't hesitate to contact us also for that purpose. If some of the questions were not fully clarified in this info session, please use the tool, use the time until the closure of the call to submit additional questions to us, and we will answer them in due time. And with that, all remains me to thank you very much for your participation, for your interest, and also a big thank to my colleagues for helping and presenting today and responding to your questions. And I'm looking forward to receiving your applications in a large number. So thank you so much and have a good day. Bye-bye.